You ever had someone just give away your property like it was theirs? Yeah, that happened to me. One morning, I walked outside to the sound of kids screaming and splashing. It was 7:30 a.m. I live on a peaceful, lakefront property, emphasis on peaceful. So imagine my surprise when I saw an entire family I didn't know, spread out on my backyard, like it was a public beach. Coolers, towels, inflatable flamingo. I asked who they were. The dad said, "Oh, we're the president's cousins." He said we could use the lake. The president of our HOA. Apparently, the HOA president decided my private lakefront was communal now. I laughed, thinking it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. In fact, what happened over the next few weeks went from annoying to insane. And the president? He didn't just lose it. He started waging a campaign against me when I pushed back. He thought he had power. But what he didn't know? I had receipts and a plan. A fence that would silence them all, literally. Stick around to see how I turned the HOA's golden boy into a neighborhood, punchline, and why there's now a 7-foot monument to petty justice standing tall in my backyard. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Tyler. I moved into the neighborhood 2 years ago, right after landing a remote job and deciding I needed peace, nature, and maybe a kayak. The house was perfect. Big yard, mature trees, and best of all, a private strip of lakefront. It was in my deed, clearly outlined. Now this neighborhood has an HOA. Most of the time, they're harmless. Don't paint your mailbox neon green kind of stuff. But the president, Greg, was different. Greg wore boat shoes to HOA meetings like he was the captain of a yacht we never saw. He'd been president for 6 years and treated the neighborhood like his personal kingdom. I kept my distance. I paid my dues. I followed the rules until that morning. After the cousins left, I called Greg. He didn't pick up. I emailed. Nothing. So at the next HOA meeting, I brought it up. "Greg, some folks used my yard last weekend. Said you gave them permission. That true?" He shrugged. Well, technically, the lakefront is accessible to all members. Cue audible gasps. "That's not true," I said. "It's deeded. I have the paperwork." He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "We'll look into it." Over the next week, things got weird. First, a warning letter about improper landscaping. Then, a $50 fine for non-regulation bird feeder. It felt personal, petty, calculated. I confronted him again. "Are you seriously retaliating because I won't let your family use my yard?" He smirked. "You moved into a community, Tyler, not a fortress." That was just the beginning. What came next? It was like I stepped into a petty war. Within days, Greg issued a formal notice stating the HOA was reviewing shared lakefront rights. Even though I had the deed, they claimed the original plats were ambiguous. And suddenly, people I'd never met were showing up near my property. One woman even brought a grill. When I asked her to leave, she called me territorial. Then came the fines. Weekly. One for having a motion sensor. Light that was too bright. Another for having unsightly canoe storage. My mailbox? Apparently 1.2 inches taller than regulations. The kicker? Greg began circulating a newsletter about inclusive lake access, with vague references to homeowners hoarding natural resources. It was clearly about me, but I stayed quiet, watching, until I caught him on camera. Greg, after sunset, walking into my backyard with a tape measure. He was measuring my fence line. When I yelled at him through my ring cam, he jumped and bolted like a guilty raccoon. I saved the footage. Then I started documenting everything. The dates, the fines, the absurd violations, the emails. Oh, the emails. Greg wasn't subtle. He kept pressing that if I opened up the yard, the fines might ease. One email read, "Let's be neighborly. This could be mutually beneficial." Was that extortion? Then, one Saturday, I came home to find a family inside my backyard. Lawn chairs and all. They said Greg told them it was open for HOA use, and that I was on probation. That was it. I called my lawyer. We reviewed the deed, the HOA bylaws, the emails. I filed a formal complaint with the county. But I wasn't just going to fight this in court. I was going to make a statement. A visible, unmistakable, towering statement. And Greg? He had no idea what was coming. First thing I did, I got permits. Fence permits. County approved. HOA be damned. See, the HOA had vague rules about fencing, but mine wasn't just any fence. It was an artistic privacy structure. Approved for wildlife protection and property integrity. 8 feet tall. Solid wood. Acoustic baffling core. Yes, soundproof. While waiting for the materials, I dropped my ace. I emailed the board. Subject line, urgent. HOA president abusing power inside? A dossier, screenshots, camera footage. Fines that didn't match bylaws. Emails that tiptoed into blackmail territory. 2 board members responded within hours. Then I went to the annual HOA meeting, the big one, where neighbors actually show up. Greg opened the meeting all smiles, wearing his signature boat shoes and pastel polo. "Before we start," I said, standing up, "I'd like to present evidence of misconduct." The room went silent. Then, gasps. I showed the footage, the measurements, the emails. I handed out printed copies. Greg started sweating, literally dabbing his forehead. "This is taken out of context," he said. Someone near the back muttered, "Looks pretty clear to me." But I wasn't done. Also, I said, "I've filed a formal complaint with the county, and starting next week, construction begins on my permitted privacy fence." Greg looked like I kicked his puppy. Neighbors clapped. Some laughed. One older woman whispered to her husband. About time someone stood up to him. When the fence materials arrived, I didn't just build. I documented it. Time lapses, drone shots. A vinyl banner hung from the top. Private property. No trespassing. I even put a fake security turret on top, motion triggered. Lights and all. It looked like Fort Knox. Suddenly, Greg stopped talking to me. The fines? Disappeared. The newsletter? Quiet. Neighbors started visiting me, asking about the fence, asking how I did it. One of them, Barb, even said, "That fence is a work of art." I smiled, because justice doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it's 8 feet tall and made of oak. It didn't take long. A week after the meeting, Greg was forced to step down as HOA president. The board held an emergency vote. Turns out, I wasn't the only one he'd pushed around, just the only one who fought back. His little kingdom crumbled. A new president was elected, someone normal, reasonable. They even called me to apologize for the miscommunication, and said they'd be reviewing bylaws more thoroughly. But the best part? The fence became legendary. People took selfies with it. Someone in the neighborhood even listed it as a landmark. On Google Maps, Petty Wall of Justice. Greg, he moved. Just packed up and left 2 months later. Some say he couldn't take the humiliation. Others say it was the constant jokes and HOA memes that started floating around our Facebook group. I may or may not have posted a few. And the lakefront? Peaceful again. No more strangers. No more flamingos. Just the occasional duck in my kayak. Last summer I threw a little party. Invited the whole neighborhood. Even put up a sign, Greg Free Zone. People loved it. Someone brought themed cookies shaped like fences. And I gave a toast to boundaries, the literal kind, and the kind we stand up for. Cheers. I didn't just reclaim my backyard. I reclaimed my peace. And reminded everyone, don't mess with a quiet neighbor who has a lawyer, a camera, and a sense of humor. Looking back, it wasn't about a fence, or even a backyard. It was about respect, the kind people think they can take from you if you don't yell loud enough, or if you mind your business and keep your head down. But every person has a line, and sometimes that line is 8 feet tall and legally reinforced. Greg thought silence meant surrender. He learned otherwise. So if you're watching this and thinking, man, my HOA is bad but not that bad, ask yourself, what would you do if someone tried to rewrite the rules on your land? Would you back down or build up? Let me know in the comments. Would you have gone the fence route or taken a different approach? Have you ever had to deal with a power-tripping HOA? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. And hey, if you made it this far, comment justice served so I know who my people are. Thanks for watching. And remember, some people fight with words, some fight with lawyers, but every now and then, the best revenge is just good woodwork. Catch you next time.